let's get started. Senate meeting number 5. I'm broadcasting today from downtown, so as usual, Chuck will be in control of everything. That's how it works. Let's start with the sound checks. Can we go around and make sure that Igor, how are things at Polytechnic? Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you really well. Everything's fine here.
Okay, good. Stefan, West?
Sorry, here's West.
Can you hear all right?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Chuck, I'm assuming everything's fine down at Tempe?
Yes, this is Shirley. Everything was
sure.
good.
Well, of course. Okay. All right. Then I think the next thing to do is get the quorum calculations done. Chuck, you want to handle the clickers and see how things are going to go? First question is up. How are we doing, Chuck?
We've got 66, and some people are just getting ready to push their clicker here, so just
Okay.
30 seconds. So.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to close the polls.
Yeah. Let's see. Well, let's see what we've got here. Looks like we're doing okay, huh?
57 of them got the correct answer on it. Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure we'd settle for that in most classes, but here I guess we will.
Curriculum changes.
Okay. All right. We've got a couple more folks coming in here, so give us a minute.
Your names are down at the end of the table. Thank you.
Arnie, you want your second clicker question?
Yeah, just a second. We seem to be short a couple of clickers here. There's
There's extra ones
here.
up here.
Oh, here's one here. There's 3, there's 4.
Okay, I think we're all right.
Let's move
Just
on.
short? Okay, here's another one. There's 2 there in the center of the table.
Okay, we're in good. Why don't we try the second clicker question, everybody?
It was tempting.
Maybe we should have
Civil dialogue.
2 of you up. Okay, Arnie, we've got 81 responses here, 82 now.
Okay. All right.
So I think I'll go ahead and close it.
Okay.
It looks like 54 people got it right.
That's right. As many of you know from last time, from the last couple of sessions, we're really trying to be sure that we know in the Senate if there are any concerns at all about courses, so we can make sure that, as the provost just said to me, we have civil dialogue at all times. So thank you all.
Arnie, Tony?
And
Real quick, just for the group though, if they don't get resolution after emailing our office, then they may request to be pulled from the consent agenda. So that's a viable second option. Just wanna make
right,
sure-
yeah. Exactly. And I'm not sure we could all hear here, but I will agree. I mean, if for some reason, after you've emailed us at the office, things are still not working, then certainly you're welcome to take the courses off the consent agenda. All right, let me give you the UAC Chair's report. That's me, so I'm going to do it. Senator Spotlight for December is Johanna Uriri Glover from Health Solutions. And we appreciate the efforts, of course. And for January, it's Eric Kostler from the Math Department. And again, Eric has been very active as well. So we're very fortunate in both of these folks. A little while ago, the Senate received an inquiry about ASU Foundation donor policies. There were some concerns about that. We've now posted those donor policies on the Senate website under the Documents tab. And I can assure you that from our perspective, at least in the Senate office, there's no inconsistency with the research mission of the university. So we think we're covered very well on that. You should know that ASU is rolling out a new hosting system for faculty websites. The beta site is up. You want to show it, Chuck? There's the beta site. And we will send out the link to this site, of course. So the recommendation is if you're deciding to develop a new site for yourself, you should probably consider using the new system for a variety of reasons. So that's it for your information. Based on a request from the faculty, respondus monitoring will be implemented for the math placement test. And the hope, of course, is that by getting the original placement right, we'll increase retention and also, frankly, graduation rates at that point. So we're certainly going to make every effort to make sure students start in the right math class. Several groups have asked that online students provide pictures for monitoring purposes. And we're involved in that for obvious reasons because of academic integrity. EdPlus has said that they will work with the faculty to allow alternative IDs for students taking O courses, because those students are not required to have an ASU Sun card. Students taking I courses should have an ASU Sun card, and for those faculty who are teaching what I think of as mixed courses with O and I students, you may have to do just basic handle it two different ways for the two different groups of students. But certainly feel free to check in with EdPlus on the O courses and the O students. The Student Faculty Policy Committee is still going to be continuing to work on this. Deborah Clark, who's right next to me here practically, will be conducting a workshop on promotion strategies for non-tenure track faculty. It'll be on February 14th from noon to 1:30. The location for the workshop, if you're on the Tempe campus, is Memorial Union 228, but a webcast will also be available.
It'll be streamed to all campuses.
It'll be streamed to all the campuses, Deb is saying. We will also send out the registration link. We've been fortunate at the Senate to get some results from some things we've been doing. High-performance computing resources are going to be essentially available to virtually all faculty. You can see the note up there. And it's pretty exciting because I think all of us are going to be finding ourselves working on this kind of thing if you're doing empirical work especially. So we've been tracking this. I was on it a couple of years ago and some other people have done it since then. And we certainly encourage interested faculty to take advantage of the new resources. There'll be some overhead in learning how to use it, but I suspect it'll be very helpful for an awful lot of people. The University Lab Senate Committee, Safety Committee was highlighted recently in an article about a University Lab Safety Innovation Award. We had something to do with launching this committee based on Senate Motion 2014-67. So safety issues are now being looked at on a university-wide basis, which can only be good for everybody. Okay, just before we go to the next part of the meeting, let me reemphasize again, this is where really the kernel of the faculty involvement is required. We're talking about new programs, new courses, and this is the curriculum, which Dr. Crow reaffirmed the other day is owned by the faculty. So, I will emphasize again that if you have any issues on courses, if you possibly can, let us know in advance so we can facilitate any discussions in that area. That's one of the things the Senate office is good for. And with that, I think I will turn it over to Caroline Harrison.
Arnie, we're going to Greg Stone.
I'm sorry, you're right. I've misstated what we're doing here. My apologies. So we have featured committees, although sometimes it slips some people's minds, which is my mistake. And Greg Stone is going to be talking about research and creative activities first.
Okay. All right, so we're really working on two things right now. One is a pay-to-publish support program. I'm sure many of you know that with the move towards open access, journals really need to find another way to support themselves. And a lot of journals are going towards a pay-to-publish model. Ultimately, a lot of that will be covered in grants, but a number of universities now have programs to assist faculty with these costs. And so Jim Lyons is running a subcommittee looking at some of the other programs around the country, and they're going to come up with a recommendation for ASU to implement some type of program. Our second project was nicely introduced by Arnie, and that has to do with high-performance computing. And as he noted, we've made really good progress now at making resources available to people. One of the problems, though, is that back in the day, supercomputing, as we called it, you either really needed it and you knew all about it, or you didn't need it. And it was a very small set of areas, mostly in engineering and natural sciences, that used it. But now there's a lot of people who can be using this, whose fields are moving more and more. Arnie mentioned a lot of people, for example, in the business world, are doing data analytics that requires high-performance computing. And so we've got a large population of users, potential users, who are fairly novice to this. And it can be a pretty complex area to try to navigate. And so what we're doing is we're working with OCAD. OCAD has just begun a program now to really try to make our high-performance computing world-class. And we're working with them to try to improve user-friendliness of the high-performance computing system here. So, as Arnie mentioned, many of us are going to be wanting to do it. Right now, it's rather daunting figuring out how to run your analysis. We're looking into ways that the process can be made much more friendly and easier. One of the things that we'll be doing most likely is conducting some sort of survey through unit heads to find out what kind of needs there are, particular things like graduate training. This is going to be, I think, very big in terms of recruiting. We want to get top people in many fields now. We need to have good high-performance computing. So those are really the two things that we're focusing on this year.
Thanks very much, Greg.
All right.
Now I think Jim Moore has some remarks he wants to make.
Okay, we'll just go to slide 2. Okay, the committee that I represent, actually, we're a task force, the Online Education Task Force. And one of the things that we had to do at the beginning was, because we weren't a continuing committee, is we had to get members. So we started off getting members, but first off, we looked at our charge. And so the goal that we had, the charge that we got, I just quoted it here, was to look at ASU's leadership in online education. Certainly, we've been there earlier and more prominent than many other universities. So we want to look at our leadership position. We want to deepen faculty involvement and commitment. And the particular issues that we were charged to look at were, what's the breadth of current online education across ASU? Look at the financial incentives, and this is both for teaching, for developing, and we're going to get a lot of terminology. We found out during the first few meetings that terminology wasn't well known or wasn't consistent in discussing or talking about online education. So the idea of immersion online versus digital immersion, exactly what do all these things mean? We've got a glossary that we'll talk about a little bit later. And the final part of the charge was to look at the faculty and administrative opinions on the perceived strengths and weaknesses of online education. Yeah, thank you. So we spent really the first two meetings kind of talking about what were the boundaries of our charge. It was very kind of open-ended. There had been a task force that had looked at this 5-7 years in the past, so it had been some time. Certainly technology and greater adoption of online education was important. And the second point here, what were the definitions within the realm of online education? We hear about ASU Online. Arnie sat in on a few of the meetings, and he talked about I courses versus O courses. Members of the task force, not everybody knew what that meant. Arnie just mentioned mixed courses. Some people called those split courses. Some people called those combined courses, where ASU Online students are taking courses that have the same Blackboard interface with iCourse students. iCourse students are what we call ground students, or students that are associated with a physical campus. So the idea of hybrid courses, iCourse, ground students, traditional students, students with a physical campus, digital immersion, ground immersion. There's a lot of terminology, and we all were using a lot of these things differently. So we worked on developing a glossary and some common definitions. We also wanted to look at what our final report and recommendation was going to do. It needed to be something of value for the Senate, and we looked at the charge a little bit. One of the things that we were charged with was looking at the financial incentives, and to some extent we kind of thought that might have been beyond our charge. That's something that maybe happens more at the administrative and dean level. Still, it's certainly something of interest to the faculty that might determine whether, let's say, a summer course makes or not. But some of the issues there were a little bit, we thought maybe beyond our element, maybe to make an appropriate charge or recommendation. We developed 3 subcommittees. We thought that with our charge, what we're going to look at, we wanted to look at ASU Online. This is Ed Plus. This is what we've got up at SkySong. We wanted to look at the relationship between ASU in general and ASU Online Ed Plus in particular, because that has a big presence in driving what goes with ASU Online activities. We also wanted to look at the breadth, what's really going on right now, kind of a snapshot of current activities. And I've got depth, I should have put down there, and I think I did later on. Future recommendations, future issues. Go to the next one. What we've moved on to actually put things together is we have been working on a survey, and we're going to have 2 different surveys going out in about 2 weeks. One survey is going to be for all faculty, another one more for chairs and coordinators. So some departments have undergraduate coordinators or online coordinators. So we've got one set of questions. And so some of the issues I mentioned before, like financial incentives, probably be more appropriate for this latter group. We're going to ask the faculty members what's their individual experience with online education. In just talking amongst the committee and talking to our faculty back in our departments, there are some faculty that have never taught an online course or taken an online course, but they've got strong opinions and beliefs and perceptions. So we want to find out, have you participated in online in the last 3 or 5 years? What are your opinions, beliefs about different issues related to online? If you have, what have you done? So we're going to have a survey. It's going to come out probably next week. And what we're going to do is we're going to distribute it to the faculty, to the senators, and ask the senators to forward it on to your departments. We think we'll get a better response if you personally ask your faculty members within your departments to get this thing back. So it'll be an email, there'll be a link to a survey form, they'll be able to click on some things, some of them will force the answers, there'll be a few open boxes where they can elaborate upon certain issues, so there'll be a survey coming out. Let's see, yeah, go to the next one. Some future needs. Ed Plus, ASU Online, O-Courses, they were, to a large extent, the driver of the growth of ASU Online. And what they do is they provide very centralized support and knowledge for what they do, development of courses, consistency, getting the common look and feel, best practices, and so on. But in the subcommittee or subgroup that we've got looking at the future and present concerns, we thought that as departments develop things on their own, so sometimes you'll have a hybrid course where half the education occurs through some kind of electronic mediation, the other half is in person. So you're not meeting 3 hours a week in the class, it's a mixed. There's other courses where we're just doing the traditional ground course, but we're assisting it somehow, whether it's presenting material, enhancing discussion between the students, committees, teams, or with the faculty, testing and so on. There's a lot of activities going on that we would call involved with online that have nothing to do with ASU Online, and this is very decentralized. And so there is no repository of best practices, and there could be some concerns about student privacy. So sometimes students create reports, sometimes their image is in some of these reports, team presentations. There's some privacy concerns we are certainly aware of that we need to address that. Intellectual property is something. Now ASU Online very much knows about this, but again, if we decentralize things, and there are decentralized activities, what's going on? The issue of efficiencies, equity, and diffusion of practices. Some colleges and departments have more resources. For example, engineering, the business school, we have some technology as far as creating classes, studio space, and technical support that other campus or colleges do not. And there are things that, again, the business school or the engineering school can do that is just not available to other ones. So the issue of equity and efficiency. Likewise, the diffusion of practices. A lot of this kind of goes by, we found out, word of mouth. One faculty member will talk to another faculty member about a new online activity, and things diffuse rather slowly that way. If there are things centralized, it might go a little bit faster. We're currently using Blackboard, but we might be moving to another system at some point. The idea of portability of existing content. So as things were developed for our existing Blackboard and system, if we do change, what is portable to a new system? Also looking at the issue of control. Is this something that's going to reside at the faculty level, department level, college level, ASU Online? So these are some of the future needs. So what we've got going in the future here is the survey's going out next week. It'll get out and back before the end of February, so we'll be able to look at the answers. We're also having some of the members reaching out to other prominent online schools that may have recently reevaluated or evaluated their online presence. So we've got a handful of schools that are prominent, comparable, that we want to look at. So in our charge, the report was supposed to occur in March. We may hit that target, or we may wait until the fall. I mean, this is a task force, and we'd rather do things adequately than rush it through. So that's, I guess, our progress report. I got a question.
Yeah, I've got two things.
Sure.
One is, because I'm chairing the subcommittee on non-tenure eligible faculty, the finance thing I think is a paramount thing. I don't want it slipping through the cracks. So, and we're glad to pick it up, because I mean, right now, as I say, an online class for a 3-credit class, the unit, including the college that delivers the instruction, receives $250 per student, and that creates tremendous pressures when colleges are trying to be self-sufficient on class size and other kinds of things that affect things, as well as summer, because in summer the revenues are also $250 per student to the college, whereas normally in the past practice of this university, summers where colleges have gotten a lot of their own in-house revenue, and the other students receive somewhere like in the neighborhood of $800 to $1,000. And at least in my college, that's leading to some discussions that are very disturbing, to say the least, about having faculty paid differently based on whether they're teaching O students or I or in-person students. So I think finances are really paramount. The second thing is related to some of the providers, like for instance, I was looking at, when I was teaching a class, integration with Blackboard. And in order to have an outside provider be integrated with Blackboard, they have to go through a whole bunch of rigmarole. I decided not to do it. Now, part of that is related to student security, but part of it gets in the way of best practices in terms of it. And on top of that, this particular provider had a way in which you could use textbooks, and you could have the students could comment directly into the text. That which I think was a very, in terms of, and have a class discussion that way, people could do it. I had a lot of really innovative aspects of it. It probably ran counter to ASU's exclusive contracting with Follett to be the bookstore. And so I think there are a lot of tensions in between in terms of what's best teaching practices and these legal systems that the ASU may set up to presumably protect students, or existing contractual relationships that ASU has entered into. So I just want to make sure those things get caught up.
Okay, yeah, we are aware of the revenue discrepancy. So it's about a 3-to-1 ratio, as you pointed out, a little bit greater than 3-to-1. And we see the same thing. Sometimes in the summer, it's like we don't have the money for faculty to teach this class, but maybe a doctoral student we could afford. Or will class make or not make, depending on the number of online versus I-course students. So we see the same issue. The outside package, we hadn't looked at that issue, so I'm glad you brought that up. Was that with a publisher, or is with some other kind of bolt-on program we couldn't do?
I mean, it's a some educated innovator. This particular one's called Perusal.com.
Okay.
But anyway, but there are lots of different products that are out there. Sometimes they're free, and sometimes you'd have to charge in order to use.
Yeah, because I know two of the big publishers like McGraw-Hill and Pearson integrate well with Blackboard, but
no, this would probably be smaller, innovative aspects that are going on, because at least my sense is it's a pretty small.
Well, when you get the survey, certainly bring that up again, but that's not something that came up in our discussion, so I'm very glad you brought that up.
All right, thank you.
Any questions at the other campus?
Downtown, do you guys have any questions? I don't see anything here, Jim. How about Polly? Anything out there?
No questions here.
West?
No questions from West.
Okay. Well, thanks very much, Jim. The task force has to be doing good work because we have to get it done. So I appreciate it. Okay, with that, I am going to turn it over to Caroline Harrison to talk about new business, CAPC motions.
The following motions will be discussed at this Thursday's CAPC meeting, then presented for discussion and vote at the next Senate meeting on February 26th. The items in Appendix A will be discussed at CAPC only and then approved. They will not be brought back before the Senate. I just want to remind everybody to send any comments or questions to me or Chuck, preferably before this Thursday morning's meeting at CAPC, and certainly on anything in this in the new business before our next Senate meeting. This will allow us to make sure that we have all the correct parties involved in the discussion, and we can make it nice and efficient. So with that, I will present the new CAPC motions. Request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, School of Social Transformation, for the establishment of a graduate degree, MA in Indigenous Education. Request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, Department of English, for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate, Interdisciplinary Health Humanities. Request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, School of Civic and Economic Thought and Leadership, for the establishment of an undergraduate degree, BA in Civic and Economic Thought and Leadership. Request from the New College of Interdisciplinary Arts and Sciences, School of Social and Behavioral Science, and the School of Humanities, Arts, and Cultural Studies for the establishment of an undergraduate degree, BA in Conflict Resolution. Request from the W.P. Carey School of Business, Department of Information Systems for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate in Digital Business Innovation.
First read items, so let me echo Caroline's idea that you get any comments to her or to Chuck or to both before preferably this Thursday's meeting. Now, in terms of old business, we now have the new course proposal consent agenda up. I would ask if there is anybody who needs to pull a course from the consent agenda. Let's start out at Polly. Anything out there? Igor?
Nothing.
Okay. Downtown? Anybody have anything they want to say about the new courses? Okay. West? Anything?
Nothing from us.
Okay, and is there anybody at Tempe? Shirley?
No one at Tempe.
All right, then we will just vote on the new course proposal agenda as a group. So please go ahead and vote for the new course proposal consent agenda.
Still three. Last call for voting here, 95 votes. 96.
Okay.
Passes 94 yes, 1 no, 2 abstain.
Well, I will notice that the number of abstentions is actually going down. I think that's a good sign. And anyway, thank you all. And I think now, Caroline, you come back to talk about the CAPC consent agenda. Is that correct, I believe?
That's correct. Okay, so the following motions were discussed and approved at the last CAPC meeting. Request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, School of Historical, Philosophical, and Religious Studies for the disestablishment of an undergraduate certificate, East Asian Studies. Request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, School of Mathematical and Statistical Sciences for the establishment of a graduate degree, Actuarial Science. Request from the Ira A. Fulton Schools of Engineering, Dean's Office for the disestablishment of an undergraduate certificate, Technology Entrepreneurship. Request from the College of Public Service and Community Solutions, Dean's Office for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate, Cross-Sector Leadership. Request from the College of Public Service and Community Solutions, School of Criminology and Criminal Justice for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate, Law and Human Behavior. Request from the College of Public Service and Community Solutions, School of Community Resources and Development for the establishment of an undergraduate degree, BS in Tourism and Recreation Management.
Consent agenda. West?
Nothing from West.
Okay. Downtown, anybody have any concerns here? Okay. Polly?
No concerns here.
Okay. And Shirley, is anything going on at Tempe?
No concerns from Tempe.
Okay, then I think we can just vote on the consent agenda.
Okay, last call for voting. 92 registered. Motion passes 90 yes, 0 no, 5 abstains.
Okay, the consent agenda is approved. We can move on to from there to committee reports. Dan McCarvo, Student Faculty Policy Committee.
So Arnie has already talked a little bit about a couple of our items that we've been pushing. We're working quite hard on the proctoring of the math placement test, and the student ID for online is now kind of shifted into photos, trying to capture at least the photos, even if we don't ship the ID. So we're working on that as well for our online programs. Another one that we've been kind of working on with talking to the provost about is trying to get our summer school sessions from a 5-day, 1 hour a day, teaching requirement to either more flexible or maybe make the standard a 4-day with some optional flexibility in this as well. And the reason being is that we have Tuesday, Thursday classes, Monday, Wednesday classes, an hour and 15 each. They would line up perfectly with summer school if we did that. We wouldn't have to go from 3 exams during the regular semester and then figure out a way to do 4 exams in the summer. It would be easier for faculty, and I've heard this from a number of faculties, and the students love it. So maybe a 4-day summer school teaching and a 3-day weekend, so to speak. There's some other benefits, even environmental benefits. We don't have to run air conditioning, 5 days a week. So we're working on that one right now with the Provost's office. Most of the Pac-12 schools kind of are in play with that. Most of them have that kind of flexibility. So we're kind of us and the U of A are kind of the oddballs out. We've been working with the Provost's office, Deb Clark, and also Karen Leitman in the legal counsel on there's the policy managing discussion boards and things like that, and what do we put in our syllabuses, our syllabi. Freudian slip. And Stefania and I have been meeting with the folks, and we've kind of got a good update from those folks. But and Marco on our committee is kind of doing a final update to include maybe a couple other things that we should include in the syllabus requirement. But one of the big items that came out of this that I wanted to communicate, long story short, is they even gave us some verbiage that Course Hero has deemed acceptable. That if you put basically on your syllabus, on your exams, on your slides, on your course materials, this is simply, in quote, this is not to be uploaded to a website or shared or anything like that. And Course Hero will not post it on their sites if you're trying to protect your information and stuff like that. So I blast it out on all my stuff anyway, and largely have been not finding my stuff published as much as it used to be. And then one other, we're working on a proposal to try to minimize the number of times a student can withdraw from courses. Now, right now we have a DE requirement of, if you get a D or an E, it's two Ds or Es, and then you got to go through an appeal process. We're trying to include withdrawal into that kind of part of the process. Now, obviously, compassionate withdrawal, military withdrawals, there's some exemptions to this. But we've got we're talking with the Provost's office about this one as well, and just doing some sample numbers. It's pretty huge, guys, and so and many of us are finding that these are the students that take up a lot of our time and effort. Literally, I pulled some data from the engineering school because I could, upwards of 12 withdrawals and DEWs from the same course over a few-year period. 12. I mean, that's pretty ridiculous. In my program, it went as high as 6, and so we're trying to manage that a little bit. And then one new, I won't go through the whole thing. We got a long list of items, and Art had already covered a couple of them. Arnie had covered a couple of them. We're also trying to at least try to figure out a way to get with the folks who made the decision to, our health care coverage changes and all that. Well, right now, many of you know that our graduate students' dependents are no longer covered by health care. So if a graduate student in the PhD program is married and has children, the dependents are not covered in the current health care program that rolled this year. So we're going to see if we can't find a way to get that reversed. At least we don't have I think, the authority in this body to do it, but we certainly want to voice our concerns. So anyway, there's a few other items, but I think I'll stop there.
Okay, I believe Chris Kaselka out at Poly, my mistake, had something on committees.
Yes, Arnie, thank you. The Academic Assembly elections are coming up in April, and every campus will be electing a new campus president-elect, as well as new members of CAF, the Governance, Grievance, and AP Grievance committees. The members of the Committee on Committees, they met recently to consider nominations for these elections, and we actually received several nominations. And right now we are in the early stages of asking nominees to stand for election. Some who are in attendance today might even be asked to consider running for an elected position. So please say yes to the opportunity to serve. Thank you, Senators, for forwarding your nominations, and my thanks to the committee for all of your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Chuck, do you have a statement from the Library Liaison Committee, I believe?
We did not receive that, so there's a scratch
Okay.
there.
We'll get that one to the next time around. Okay. We now come to open forum. This is an opportunity for senators to have their say. Let me start this time at Poly and see if there are anything for open forum.
No questions or issues here.
Okay. Anything downtown? Anybody have something they want to say? I don't see anything here. Stefan out at West?
Yes, we do have a question. It's for Daniel.
Okay.
So you mentioned the wording that should go on exams or any course materials that we don't want uploaded. Can that be circulated, or is there a place that we can find out that exact verbiage?
I believe we will be circulating that.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a part of the ACD, but
In fact,
it needs to be circulated. In fact, I've got this is the Course Hero document that our legal team has been working with them. And so as soon as, I think there's a couple final things that the Provost's office is working on. This is with Deb Clark and Karen and the folks. So yeah, I think the point is to circulate at least the verbiage so that we can all try to reduce this problem.
And Deb has just said to me that we will probably incorporate this into the syllabus area on ACD.
I thought that was the whole point of all of these changes, was
The
revision of ACD, whatever it is, the syllabus.
Yeah, so, but we'll plan on that. That will have to be approved by the Senate, but I don't think there'll be any problem with it. So, okay. Anything down at Tempe? I see somebody coming to the...
Hi, Crystal Griffith, School of Film, Dance, and Theater. I just had a quick question about the survey that we're going to be asked to distribute to our colleagues. Could you just please, because I know it takes a while to get the minutes out, and I wanted to give my chair and some others a heads up on that, could someone please just briefly describe what they are being asked to do? Because if we give people a heads up on it, then that way at least they're looking for it as opposed to it being lost in the deluge of emails. Thank you.
Jim, you want to come back up and talk about that for a second?
He's coming to the mic.
Okay, great.
Okay, the Online Education Task Force Committee is developing a survey, and we're still working on the exact questions, but it's not going to be that long. Let me look back at my notes here. The contents of the question, some of it is going to be a little bit quasi-demographic. Have you experienced or have you taught online? How long ago? Size of the class, junior, senior level, graduate, and so on. So there'll be a few questions, and depending on the answers, it'll branch out. So if you haven't any experience, there'll be a few questions asking you about your attitudes and perceptions of online education and concerns. If you have, there'll be a few more questions beyond that, asking about your experiences, the troubles that you've had, the things you'd like to see in the future. So we're really trying to get a view of the experiences and the attitudes and perceptions and concerns of the faculty dealing with online in a very broad sense. we're finishing up the form and the actual content. We'll be sending it out probably end of next week. Is this? Oh, most people, it shouldn't take more than about 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes, let's say 15 to do it. We know the first big wave is going to come in the first week and a half. So we're looking to kind of stop looking at the end of February. So it'll come out pretty quick.
Yeah, to follow up on that question.
I lost the mic.
You want to come up here?
Okay, all right, this one's working now. This is just, when we ask our faculty, is it targeted at those people who have taught O courses or I courses or
All
everyone?
faculty.
All faculty. So it'll be clear whether it's ASU Online or whether it's the I courses, that kind of
Right.
thing.
The beginning of the survey actually will have our glossary of terminology. So we found out in committee that at the beginning, the idea of hybrid courses, some people thought that was one Blackboard site that was partially iCourse, partially online. Other people saw this as, no, it's partially in person, it's partially online. So the first part of it will be a glossary of terminology, and then it'll go from there.
Okay, thank you.
Shirley, is there anyone else coming to the mic?
Doesn't look like it. Thank you.
Okay. With that, I want to thank the folks downtown for their hospitality and for the gavel. I forgot mine. So, so with that, we're adjourned.
Can I make sure everybody signed in?
Arnie, I think you're going to get a prize.